Working with advanced maps, an overview. Now, during this tutorial, what I'm going to do is I'm going to introduce you to the concept of advanced maps. I'm going to show you how you can create an advanced map, and I'm also going to introduce you to some terminology that is unique to advanced maps. So when we talk about advanced maps, what we're talking about is your ability to go ahead and create a map using graphical interfaces. So simply put, we're talking about using drag and drop technology to create the basic foundation of your map, and then being able to drill into individual components in your advanced maps and flesh out the additional details. Now, before I actually take you into advanced maps, what I want to do is talk about the difference between basic maps and advanced maps. Now, some people would be inclined to immediately create their map as an advanced maps, thinking somehow there's an additional benefit for them. Basic maps and advanced maps are uniquely different in some of the things that they're able to do, but basic maps will handle most of your mapping needs, so you should always start with a basic map. Now, should you decide later on that the functionality within advanced maps would be more beneficial to you, you can take a basic map and convert it to an advanced map. You cannot do that backwards. So once you start creating it as an advanced map, there is no convert feature for you to take it from an advanced map to a basic map, something you should remember. The other thing that's different about basic maps and advanced maps is the way that they handle filters. Now, when we talk about how basic map handles filters, it combines multiple statements with an A&D, and only an and. But when we talk about how advanced maps handles filters, it can take multiple statements and combine it with either an and statement or an or statement. So it can use AND or OR. So that's one of the big differences that you'll notice about basic maps and advanced maps. The other thing is that how basic maps and advanced maps handle relationships. Now, within basic maps, those are automatically established. Within advanced maps, there's this concept called related entities. Now, what that allows you to do is to use a manual process for relationship management. And we'll talk about that a little bit later in another tutorial. And then last but not least, the difference between basic maps and advanced maps is that within advanced maps, there is a feature called debug. What it's going to do is run an integrity check on your map before you expose it to everybody. And what it's basically going to do is it's going to run through the entire map, and it's going to show you where there might be errors, and it's going to show you those errors, or it's going to run the map successfully so you know that it's ready to be used. So debug is another difference between basic maps and advanced maps. So I want to point out a few things for you. We notice that I've already started a couple of advanced maps. I want to point out a few buttons to you. Of course, you have your basic maps button right there, your advanced maps button to the right of basic, and then the convert button. Now, if I actually had a basic map within this screen and I highlighted it, the convert button would light up. So it would allow me to go ahead and convert that basic map into an advanced map. All the mapping that I have done, all the relationships that I have established within that basic map will convert over to the advanced map. Now, to start the process to create a new advanced map, I simply would click on the advanced map button. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and open up an advanced map that I started. Now, I wanted to point out a few things for you. So when we look at the general things that you need to do for your advanced map, the first one is, just like with basic maps, you have to give it a name. Then you also have to give it a description. But there's a few things that are different, so I want to go ahead and point them out to you. So if we were to look at the screen, we would divide it logically down the middle, up and down the middle, left and right. And on the left-hand side, that large white area is called your workspace. So that's where you're actually going to drag and drop those things that you need to create your advanced map, and you're going to put them into that workspace. Now, where you drag and drop from is from the right-hand side, the gray area. And what you notice about the gray area is that it's called the palette. Now, as we move down a little bit more, I want to point out a few things to you. We have the Design tab, so that's where you will find your source connections and your target connections and your ability to go ahead and drag and drop from there to create your map. You also have errors and warnings. We've seen that before in a basic map, so the key here is to remember you need to eliminate all of your errors because the map will not run and will show as incomplete if there are errors that still exist. Likewise, you need to go ahead and take care of as many warnings as you can, or acknowledge what the warnings might do to your map. So remember, warnings will let you run the map, but you need to understand the repercussions of not cleaning up those warnings. The other one is debug. We talked a little bit about that. There's a separate tutorial for that, so you can learn a little bit more about it. So I'm going to go back to our design tab, and I'm going to move down a little bit, and I'm going to remind you that you have connections. And just as with a basic map, you have the ability to go ahead and select from the drop-down list those connections that you've already established. You can create a new connection on the fly should you need to, or you can edit an existing connection. Likewise, just below that, within the palette area, you also notice that you have target connection. Same methodology here. From the drop-down list, you pick that which you want to use as a target connection. You can create a new target connection, or you can edit it. Now, below each one of them, you'll notice that you have what we call blocks. Now, what these blocks will allow you to do is go ahead and build out your advanced map. Now, at the top, we notice that we have blue blocks, and those are our source blocks. Down below, we have green blocks. Those are our target blocks. And just below that, further on down our palette, we have what we call control blocks. So basically, when we think about the source and the target blocks, that's the information we want to get. That's the data we want to get. That's the map we want to create. With the control blocks, these are the instructions of what we want to do when we bring that data over from the source to the target. So we'll go through some of these in this tutorial, but you'll also find in other tutorials we go into a little bit more detail about each one of these. So I'm just going to scroll back to the top to my source, and I'm going to show you a few things by dragging and dropping what we need for our map. Now, the first thing you should know is when you get ready to build your advanced map, there are key things that are important for your advanced map. The first thing is that every advanced map must start with the query block from our source. So you will start every single one of your advanced maps with the query block. And what we'll notice is that all I simply did was grab that query block and I dragged and dropped it over. And as we start going through, what you'll notice is that there are natural connections that advanced maps understand. So what I mean by that is that if you try to put something where it doesn't belong, using the drag and drop method from the palette over to the workspace, you'll see that it'll let you do it to some degree, but it won't be functional. Let me show you what I mean. So we have the query block over there already. So I'm just going to go ahead and grab the create block from the target and watch what happens. It seems to fit, but there's a few things that are missing. One, if this was a natural relationship that should work together as blocks, I would get a little highlight underneath this block that lets me know that that is a proper connection. Also, once I fit that connection in like a puzzle, this would not be shadowed out. It would not be transparent at all. If it was a natural connection that belonged in the area that I inserted it in, then it would be bold, just like the query block. So I'm going to go ahead and show you how you can remove it. You can use your right-click feature if you want, and you can also just take it away and throw it behind the palette, and it's just going to ask you if you want to go ahead and remove it. And you do. So remember, you have to start off every advanced map with the query block. So the next thing I want to do is I tend to, when I think about a methodology of building my advanced maps, I bring out all the control blocks next and put them in the order that I think I need to create my advanced map in. And then I go to either the source or the target blocks to build out the rest of my map. So the next thing I'm going to point out is that when you build your map, you see how you get that yellow line there? Natural connection. Watch what happens when I fit it in there. See how it isn't transparent? It's bold and it's ready to be used. So as I mentioned before, the query block must start every single one of your advanced maps. And every single one of your advanced maps must utilize the for each result control block. It's important to remember. So those two things are mandatory for every advanced map. Now what I'm basically doing here is that I'm building out what I understand using that graphical interface my simple map is going to be. This is a very simple advanced map. And all I'm doing is a one-way integration from my source into my target. So all I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be creating new accounts. So what that means is that the next logical thing that I should select would be my create block, from my target, and you see that I have that yellow line, natural connection, and I put it right in there. So this is about as far as I want to go right now about the things that I want to select or the blocks that I want to choose to create my maps. But I'm not really done yet. There are other things that I need to do to make sure my map works. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to point out a few things. Remember, I told you that you need to make sure you take care of your errors and warnings. And what you notice is that the same icons that are represented within basic maps, the red circle with the white X or the yellow triangle, those are available to me as well in advanced maps. Once I go ahead and bring things over from the palette over to my workspace, all I simply do is I start drilling down in to each one of the blocks and complete what I need to complete to make sure my map is ready. A quick overview of what you're noticing here is that, as we point out, your ability to build filters is on the query level, so you build it there. You can look at previews based on that particular block, and then you can also validate your errors and warnings as it pertains to that block. As you go down, what you notice here is that you have the ability to do several things within advanced maps. The first thing is that I can rename the block that I'm using. So I'm just going to go ahead and let people know what I'm actually trying to pull over from my source to my target. So account query. We notice that our connection, if I want to give this block a description, I can. And then I just have to choose the entity that I want to use. So my source uses customer as it equates to account. So I'm going to be creating new accounts in the target, and the source equivalent to that is customers. Now, I'm not going to talk too much about the process. We've seen that before in basic maps. And I'm going to talk about related entities in a different tutorial. So at this point, we notice that my errors and warnings are done so far. But remember to keep paying attention to that, just in case something that you do later on in your advanced map creates an error warning. So I'm going to go ahead and click OK. And I'm just going to start scrolling down. Now, what I want to tell you is that there isn't an awful lot you need to do when we talk about the control blocks. You still need to click into them and make sure you know what you're trying to achieve, and also just validate that there are no errors and warnings. Likewise, I can go ahead and rename it. And once again, you probably do this less for you and more for other people who use this particular advanced map. And you click OK. And so it's really very clear, and you see how it takes on that description that you chose. Now let's go into Create. And once again, there's a few things I need to do in here, and it's going to be very similar to what we did with basic maps in order to make this advanced map work. The first thing I have to do is I choose the entity that I want to create, which is an account. I'm going to look at my errors and warnings, so I need to clean that up. So all I simply do is go into Fields. I'm going to select all, and I'm going to let the system work for my benefit. Click OK. There's a few things I'm going to take care of myself. So customer number and account number are actually the same in my system. And company name and name didn't automatically map. So I'm going to go ahead and map that for it. We notice that all of our errors and warnings are done. If I want to, I can continue creating any other additional map. So I'm going to go ahead and click OK. Now, the one reason why I needed to create an advanced map is what I wanted to filter. So I have a very unique filtering requirement for this map. And understanding that filter requirement brought me into creating the advanced map. So all I'm going to do is go into my account query. So this particular filter that I need to build, the statement has to be combined with OR. So I need to use the OR statement. That tells me right there that I need to go ahead and use advanced maps. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask it first to look for accounts where the credit amount is equal to or less than. So less than or equal to. Now, something different. Remember when we created filters in basic maps, we simply filled out the grids from fields, operator, and value. But in advanced maps, we double click into the value field and we go ahead and enter the value we want. Now, what this also means is that you'll notice that even within filters, you have the ability to go ahead and build out advanced formulas should you need to. So once again, credit amount less than or equal to 2,000. And the multiple statement that I need here, I'm going to go ahead and click New. Combine my statement with OR. So credit amount is less than or equal to 2,000, or the account is on credit hold, and that's equal to, and if you were to actually go into my database, credit hold is a select field that I have within my product that is either Y for yes or N for no. So what I need to do is just let the system know. So once again, what we notice here is that what I'd like to do is make sure that with this filter, it focuses in on credit amount that is less than or equal to 2,000, or the account is on credit hold and that credit hold is equal to yes. And so that's how I use the filters in advanced maps, and that's one of the unique differences between basic maps and advanced maps. Now, once you create an advanced map, you can come in here at any time you want and edit it. You can remove things from your workspace and add different things from your palette, whatever you need to do. Remember that when you do that, you can use the right-click feature, or you can drag and drop. Now remember, it understands that there's a natural relationship between the things that you selected from the palette and brought over to the workspace. Once you're ready and you want to go ahead and save your map, you simply save map. One thing I should point out, if the solution hasn't been saved yet, what it'll do is it'll ask you to save the solution first and then save the map. Your map will be safe, so don't worry about that. Go ahead and click OK. And what we notice here is that your advanced map appears here. You notice that it has a check mark for enabled, which means that you've done everything you have to do to make sure that map is ready to use. And once you're all done, you go ahead and click Save. Your solution is saved and your advanced map is ready.